We're moving in a new direction, moving forward, and moving beyond smoking. We are Altria, and our companies are leading the way in moving adult smokers away from cigarettes by taking action to transition millions toward potentially less harmful choices as we move from being known as a tobacco company to being recognized as a tobacco harm reduction company. Altria is moving beyond smoking. Find out how at altria.com.
The skills and credentials you need for the career you want are within reach at University of Maryland Global Campus. An accredited state university, UMGC offers online courses, personalized advising, lifetime career services, and more. Visit umgc.edu/podcast.
La 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 la, la 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 la, Elmo's World.
Welcome to the Elmo's World podcast. Welcome to Elmo's World podcast. This is Elmo Ador, your host, and I have my friend Vinícius Cerva here. Can you tell us something about yourself?
Okay, well, I am from Brazil. I live in Porto Alegre, which is the capital of Rio Grande do Sul, a state which is in the southernmost part of my country. I am 29 years old. I am very interested in mythology. I have a degree in library sciences, but currently I am trying to apply to a master. I'm trying to enter in a master of history at an university here in my state. And since 2016, I am interested in the historicity of Jesus, because since, I don't know, 2008, I am interested, as I said, in mythology. I am fascinated by Celtic mythology, a little bit of Norse mythology, even in general, but mainly Celtic, which led me in the beginning of 2016 to try and understand why we don't have today, for instance, I don't know, the Celtic religion in our society. You know, I wasn't curious about the political question, because I know that Christianity became the imperial state, and we had the Dark Ages and so on. But I loved, and I also love, the Celtic mythology so much that I was interested in knowing Christianity in its theological aspect, like what makes the God Yahweh, I don't know, have in more esteem in people, you know, why. So I started researching about the Judeo-Christian tradition in the beginning of 2016, and I started with Yahweh. I discovered that he is a figure who is very violent and pyromaniac in the Old Testament, right? Which some months later led me to know Acharya S, which is one of the main proponents of the Christ myth theory, which poses that or defends that Jesus wasn't a historical character. And since then, I beyond or besides being interested in the historicity of Jesus, I also got interested in what is called Gnosticism, although the term is kind of being questioned, Gnosis, Gnosticism. But I am interested in Gnosticism because of two authors who studied the existence of Jesus through the lens of Gnosticism. Because for them, Jesus is a Gnostic mythical savior, right? They have a theory that every religious tradition have a spiritual Gnostic tradition and a literal corrupted tradition, you know. And I also entertain the possibility that the Apostle Paul, his real identity, I entertain the possibility that is Simon Magus, because I saw some similarities already, some coincidences that it's not that we can really suspect, but are coincidences that deserve some attention. And that's pretty much about it.
Awesome. And but I guess then, with all your studying in history, what have you concluded with the historical accurateness of who Jesus is, or what most of the people these days in modern age think about him?
Do you mean my conclusion about the subject? About the historical Jesus?
Yeah.
If he existed or not?
Yeah.
Well, I think that is very hard that he have existed, because in the Mediterranean region we had a lot of mystery cults, and they also had rites of, for instance, ablution, which is kind of the baptism of Christianity. So you have in Christianity and in these rites you have the right to enter the cult, and in this mystery cults, this rite of ablution also removed sins from the person who is going to be initiated. We have a clear instance of that in Tertullian, saying about the mystery cults of Isis and Mithras. It's his interpretation. It's how he represents the effect of being of going through this ritual, that the person has its sins removed. But I know that an author already corroborates that, yes, this ritual really removes sins for different reasons than Christianity's, but they do. And they also, these cults also had a sacred meal And a scholar, Richard Carrier, said that these meals were also intended to unite the initiate with its deity. So you have also another correspondence with Christianity and with the Eucharist. Also, these mystery cults, their doctrines, they were encoded in myths. In the Jesus story, some scholars also pointed out that Jesus' story in the Gospels themselves are better understood as myths rather than historical reports. Like, for instance, Jesus, when he goes through Galilee and gather his disciples, his first two disciples, Peter and Andrew, he doesn't barely convince them of joining him. It's like, oh, come with me, and let's make fishers of men. And they suddenly just drop their nets, right, and follow him. And I am pretty sure that it's said in the gospel, they immediately follow him, right? So it's something weird to be in a report if this is a historical event, and it's such a trivial thing, like gathering disciples. So why to make about such a trivial thing uh, to become a report that is unrealistic, you know? And there are also other parts of the Gospels. For instance, Jesus, when he finds a man with demons, he transfers the demons of this man, 200 demons, right, into 200 pigs, something like this. And then Jesus then cast the pigs into the sea, to drown in the sea. And so these are things that they are weird, you know. They are seen to be better understood as myths. And also, when Jesus enters Jerusalem, he enters in that kind of ceremonial way, when people are waving palms at him, right? And this has a correlation not only in the Old Testament, but also in the story of Dionysus. I can't remember the details now, but yeah, there are scholars, mainly Richard Carrier, already posited that the Gospels are better understood as myths rather than historical reports. So in the mystery cults, you have a initiation ritual, two, the ablution to enter the cult and remove sins, and then the Eucharist, and you have also myths who encode secret doctrines that must be decoded by the initiate. And I think that one last major hint that Jesus wasn't a historical – because Christianity started as a mystery cult – is that in Paul's time, in the Apostle Paul's time, Paul he says, I don't remember if it's explicit. Yeah, he says that oh, I can't to the Corinthians, I think I can't impart to you this type of knowledge because you're not ready yet. And in the mystery codes, you also had secret doctrines. So Paul is consciously showing that there are doctrines, knowledge that some of the members of the Christian cult at his time weren't ready yet to receive. So that is a, I don't know how people say, red flag that we are probably dealing, and not because the secret doctrines, but you end up adding piece by piece. It's the ablution, is the sacred meal, is the gospel story, which is better seen as a myth than a history, and also the secret doctrines. So I concur with Richard Carrier that just as the other mystery codes were consciously created with these elements, so Christianity is better seen as having been consciously created by an ablution ritual, by an Eucharist, the sacred meal, right? By the Gospels portraying Jesus more, portraying the story better seen as a myth, according to our knowledge about how myths were created in antiquity, and also the secret doctrines. So I think that Christianity was consciously created as a mystery cult, and therefore Jesus could not be historical because all the other mystery cults, pagan mystery cults, had their saviors as mythical beings, Dionysus, Attis, Mithras, Isis, or Osiris, and well, also there is another point that Richard Carrier studies, is that Jesus would have been not a pagan god, but a heavenly figure, like an angel. Because, okay, Christianity seems to be consciously created as a mystery cult, but okay, Jesus, what was he actually? But so we can see that we don't have historical reports about him. Josephus, he didn't mention Jesus. I don't think. It's very weird, the passage for him, the Testimonium Flavianum, for him to have written it, and other Roman sources don't explicitly mention Jesus. Tacitus, Pliny, Suetonius, they don't explicitly mention Jesus, the historical Jesus. Let's see. Yeah, and through the Pauline epistles, Carrier then could see evidence and not only the Pauline epistles, but also using Philo too, because Philo mentioned a figure whose characteristics are the same as Jesus in the Pauline epistles, like the pre-existence of a figure. In the case of Philo, I don't think he mentions also a Jesus, but there are a lot of characteristics that seem to have maybe been imported to Jesus in the Pauline epistles. Yeah, I think that's basically it. I don't think Jesus probably existed because it would be weird, you know. A lot of all the other codes have had the same characteristics, and their saviors was unhistorical. So why would Jesus be different? That's my take.
Awesome. Okay. So you set sort of a standard in how you would interpret for example, even the Bible, the narratives, Jesus' miracles, and everything would, according to Richard Carrier, would simply be absurd, right? And but other than that, I guess we could say that miracles or these stories are meant to be weird because they're not normal, you know. But when we talk about, for example, like let's say God, you know, do you
Okay.
think God exists? Why or why not?
Oh, about God. Well, I don't think um, God exists with. That's very complicated, but I don't think he exists. There's no evidence, because if we are going to establish a way of establishing knowledge, we need science, right? I mean, science is the way to acquire knowledge, uh, which is based on observations of what exists, of what everyone can see, right? So I don't think. I mean, I am sure that there's no evidence that God exists, which is not say that we can't have had a starting point um, in the universe or the multiverse. I don't know, but the kind of God that we have in mind, which it's judgmental, which promises heaven for some or hell for others. I think this is a, how can I say? I think it's not accurate according to what we know of the universe. Because if I can add a little more thing, I think that God is the product of philosophical speculation. You know, in antiquity, I know that a Gnostic philosopher, Basilides, he has a quote. I can't get it now because I would take some time. But he has a quote in which he tries to understand God but he doesn't assume that God has these characteristics, that he promises heaven or hell. He goes into a mind process of thinking, oh, but what, God can't be even one, because we are then defining God. He goes into a speculation about what God can be, but not what God actually is. He tries to construct God. Oh, but we can't define that God is one because we are already characterizing what we can't characterize. So it's interesting. I think that God, rather than being a reality, an object of reality that the science can perceive, I think that God is actually the product of people trying to understand what is at the origin of everything, you know. And I don't know, maybe some of them might have actually, some of them put characteristics on God, that he is judgmental and stuff. But this is already a process that that you are not anymore trying to speculate. You are already stating that God is this, and that's the problem, because then you create a God that is evil, right? The Gnostics thought that Yahweh is an ignorant deity, because, well, anyway, we can we can discuss this more if you want, or we could
Yeah,
change
I'm
subject.
actually been
I,
studying
I,
the
I, I
Gnostics.
don't know. I don't know if I made myself understood.
Yeah,
uh,
you said basically that there could be a God, there couldn't be a God, but so far as we know, the God that is presented to us is this person that doesn't really care much about us. That's what you're saying.
yeah, no, science. My point is that science couldn't find evidence that God exists, not with the characteristics that we think of God, which is not to say that the universe didn't have a principle, right? But what we do have evidence for is nature. So I don't know at which point nature stops being nature and become God, or God stops being God and become nature. I think that there is only evidence for nature. You understand? Do
Mm-hmm.
you understand?
Okay, but it seems that well, we could go philosophical on this, but I would like to dive into your understanding of Gnosticism. I have a lot of friends who talk about being Gnostics, but to you, what is your
Yeah.
understanding of Gnosticism?
Well, Gnosticism, gnosis, right? Gnosis is a term used to define a state, or rather an insight that you suddenly know, or you have an insight about God. So in Orthodoxy, while you have Jesus to be the intermediary of God, gnosis allows you to have a direct experience of God, in the sense that because they have a whole way of thinking that we came, or rather we have fallen from a state of purity, which is the pleroma. We have fallen from the pleroma into the matter, which is our world, which is also called kenoma, right? This cosmos, the world of matter, this universe. So for the Gnostics, you should acquire gnosis, which is the insight that you are not from here. You are not from this let's say dimension. It's not an accurate word, but we are not from this planet. We are not from this dimension or cosmos. We are our true home is actually from where we have fallen, which is the pleroma. And so we have to acquire this insight, this divine insight, which is gnosis, that we are not from here. We have fallen, and by acquiring this gnosis, we how can I say? I don't know. It's kind of, I should study a little more, but through this insight, you know where you came from, so you know that you are going to return to this place, you know. And there are more things involved, because I think that Gnosticism might also be a mystery cult. Well, if Christianity started as a mystery cult, Gnosticism it's true a mystery cult, because in the mystery cult you had a set of teachings that involved not also ethics of being a better person, but also that you are not separated from God, you know, from the divine. And this was taught in the mystery cults, but also, according to my readings of Timothy Frick and Peter Gandy, gnosis also allows you to reconnect with God or the divine. So I think that gnosis is this divine intuition that we are not from this world. We are here temporarily, and we have to realize where we came from, because we will realize what we are, that we are good people. Let's put that way, divine beings, right? We are divine beings, but in a fallen state on earth. So this insight allows us to try to be the most divine we can on earth, do good to others, try to connect ourselves to nature, to God, excuse me, so that we die with a better hope, that we will return to the pleroma when we die. And another point, the main part of the mythology of the Gnostics is that Jesus came to earth to teach us this, that we are essentially a divine being. So he comes to awaken in us the divine seed that is asleep inside of us. And they also have other aspects, like they have the figure of the demiurge, who in their philosophical speculations or myths, this demiurge is the god who created earth, and he is the same as Jehovah or Yahweh, and he is an ignorant deity. So he created the world in an ignorant manner. So we suffer uh, in various ways. This world is a valley of tears. And yeah, they created a whole mythology to explain their philosophical speculations. And Jesus is this being, which I think is mythical, that symbolically comes. They try to sell this idea, right, the Gnostics, that he came to awaken in us the notion, the idea that we are not this body. We are essentially one with God, but we have fallen from it. That's essentially my view
Mhm.
on Gnosticism.
Yeah, okay. And can you tell me, I guess then that now you have this understanding of history and what the sources of maybe Christianity and how Gnosticism sprouted up from all of these. In terms of, for example, what the religious condition of the modern age is, with that, like billions of people being Christian and Muslim. Why do you think there's so much religion in a really really informative age?
Well, that's an interesting question. It might not have just one reason. Let's see. I think that religion still has too much political power, and also social power, because at least in my country, well, in any street you will find a church, right? An evangelical church. So it's a profitable business. That's why you have all these churches. Um, and also because of politics. Today we have a president, Jair Bolsonaro, and he is a very conservative Christian person. So he represents and he influences politics because of his religious views, among other politicians also. And I let's see here. I don't know. People are very yet. They hold strongly to their traditions yet, right? Because we are talking about centuries, even millennia of a conditioning that couldn't that faced uh, or didn't face, how can I say, a critical sense, because the church in the Middle Ages suppressed any attempt on questionings and stuff. And yeah, and because I it's very hard, even in a society like ours, to find people with critical sense, you know. Not that people don't have, they do have, but the religious part, it is also strong, and it's okay. Anyone can have their own beliefs. I just think that we should not keep selling ideas like the virgin birth or other miraculous things, because they only contribute to the existence of pastors like the ones in my country, which make a lot of evangelical churches to make people delusional. Like they sell brooms with magical properties, or bottles of water with magical properties, and that is not true, right? That is misleading people into buying an idea which is not true. That's my point. The politics, social aspect, because it's profitable, and you gain a lot of influence too, right? Of power over people,
Yeah, sure.
and
I agree with that, but I guess we have to also look into human psychology and dive deep down into why people have or tend to have religious beliefs, you know. And there are many theories, and we could talk about all of these, but
yeah,
essentially personally I think that we as humans have actually cannot arrive at certainty in terms of things that we use induction for example. We cannot fairly be certain whether or not we've actually been here for billions of years, or that God created us. There are things that we can't absolutely be certain about. But I do agree that there are things that are scientific that keep working, and we would assume that is are facts, like the moon being spherical and the Earth not being flat,
right,
and gravity and medicine and that stuff. But
sure,
in terms of things that just are out of reach, and we only use our limited data to analyze and predict, or to I'm not sure if we're able to actually know for certain about these things, but we can actually make guesses, you know. That's what I think.
right, yeah. My position is that uh, whenever you have a point to make or a point to defend, you must have evidence. And this evidence must be, um, how can I say, everyone can have the same access to the evidence you are positing, because it gets easier to a person to claim that uh, he or she was visited by an alien, right? There are some things that we must be suspect, and that's how I see it. Just a little one more thing. A golden rule: the burden of proof is on the person making the claim, right? I'm not saying that we never will discover if God exists, but anyone trying to attempt this, to defend God's existence, must give evidence, and that's not been done properly yet. And so, if until this is done, we can't just believe, and that's an important thing to keep in mind. We can't believe in something until we have reason. So it's not to say, "Oh, God doesn't exist. God is a fairy tale thing." No, just that we can't know, and if we can't know, we don't just believe, just as we don't believe in, with all due respect, in unicorns, because we have no evidence. that's kind of a close parallel. That's how I think.
Yeah, but I guess then there are things that we have reason to believe that don't exist, but we can never actually say that no unicorns exist, because we never we don't know, we're not omniscient, you know. So there might actually be a unicorn out there, but we just don't know, or that we just don't have reason to believe that there are unicorns. But to say for certain that there are absolutely no unicorns is a logical fallacy, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It is,
I,
these are things that are very logical, you know. So when it comes to
because
like,
the because the I understand what you say. But I wanted to counter, saying that the burden of proof is on the person making the claim. Is not to say that, oh, they don't exist. No, we are just expecting you to prove your point, because I can't know if you are just making it up. You know, maybe you don't actually know or have the evidence. Maybe you're just making it up. So we have the burden of proof is on the person saying something, right? Because as I said, you
yeah,
can be
but
making
the fact is, like, whether or not my argument that I have I prove that are unicorns, or I don't prove, or I give sufficient evidence, that's irrelevant whether to the fact that the objective truth that whether or not there could be a unicorn or not, or no unicorn out there. So I guess that whether or not whether or not I show I suffice or satisfy the burden of proof, or I don't give the burden of proof, it's irrelevant. Basically, we're just two people talking about whether or not there's a unicorn, but that doesn't change the fact that in the objective reality there could be a unicorn out there, or there couldn't. And I guess then we could also use that argument with God. We humans, we have our limited knowledge, and whether or not I prove or don't prove, or you disprove God or you don't disprove God, we can never know for certain. And I think that anyone who makes a positive claim that there is no God is making a fallacy.
Yeah, I agree with you because there is another problem because if God, because you have to show the evidence. It's not the person that must disprove. I mean, this person can disprove by showing that there is no evidence, but the principle is that it's the one making the claim that must give the evidence. And so the other person will analyze the evidences, and will come to a conclusion if God exists or not. And you also raised a point that regardless of we know or not that God or unicorns exist, that they might exist, regardless that we know, right, or not. But yeah, it comes to the point that we can't know, and so we can't believe in something that we don't know. You understand? You need a reason to believe in something, and you need a good reason.
Mm-hmm. Well, I
I,
could talk to you about reasons to believe as to why God exists. That's pretty easy. But in terms of, I guess, this interview, and it's almost an hour now, and it's been awesome talking with you. And I wanted to ask you one
Thanks.
last question.
Yeah.
Being a person as you who strives to be a historian, so what is
Yeah.
your end goal or your vision for the future as to how you would act in life, and what your contribution to society would be being this historian?
Well, as a historian, I would like to defend, or rather to produce knowledge about the origins of Christianity, the baby alongside the water. If I ever come to defend publicly as a historian that Jesus most likely wasn't historical, I also want to show that we also have this incredible myth of Jesus, right? Of sacrifice, a beautiful myth, alongside the other myths of Gnosticism. I want to show to put light also as a historian in the Gnostics. I think they were very, very mistreated, misrepresented by this 2,000 years almost of history. Yeah, I want to be this historian that tries to show the early Christianity as most scientific as possible, even though I might be challenging consensus. I will try not also to be expelled from academia, but I want to try the best I can to point out things that may not be true, And I think that the truth is a great thing. I love the truth. I love knowing that Jesus probably was a myth. I think it's empowering to us because all of us can be a Christ. Even Paul says, the secret is the Christ in you, right? It's the empowering thing of imitating Jesus, of being the best person you can be in the way you want to be, right? So that's my goal as a historian.
Awesome. And it's been fun talking with you, bro. And
Thank you.
thank you so much. So that's the end of it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is your host, Elmo Ador Jr. And thank you for listening in. And please subscribe. Please follow us on Facebook. Please follow this. Please. Thanks.
We're moving in a new direction, moving forward and moving beyond smoking. We are Altria, and our companies are leading the way in moving adult smokers away from cigarettes by taking action to transition millions toward potentially less harmful choices as we move from being known as a tobacco company to being recognized as a tobacco harm reduction company. Altria is moving beyond smoking. Find out how at altria.com.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.